YouTube, and welcome back to episode 6 of Bare Bones Debut. Tonight, we're going to be just doing something simple, setting a static IP address. We're doing a couple different ways. First with just the interfaces file, and then we're going to be using a program called Netplan. I very much prefer to do the Netplan way, but the interfaces file is fairly easy to do as well. So we'll just do both of them, cover bare bases. I believe they should work really in any distribution. All right, well, let's get into it. So one of the first things that we're going to need to do is we're going to need to know our Ethernet adapter name as well as our current IP address, just to make sure that they do actually change. So to find your current IP with Polybar, it's fairly easy. We actually have it right up here already. But if you don't have Polybar installed, you can just do IP space A. IPA will just list all of the network devices on your machine. Number 2, at least for my virtual machine, that is my Ethernet adapter, ENP1S0. It'll likely be called something else for you, unless you're also in a virtual machine. I know on my main rig it's called ENP12S0, I think. I'm not entirely sure how they get the naming scheme out of it, but it's fine. So then you would also find the current IP address of your system right there. So in our case, it's 192.168.42.140. And that's fine. Since this is a virtual machine on my computer, it's already on the correct subdomain and everything. We're going to be changing it to a static IP address, so it isn't relying on DHCP to actually get the address or anything like that. Right, so next thing we need to do is actually install an application called Network Manager. There is something that is working for the network now. I know it's not DHCP CD, it's not Network Manager. I don't entirely know what Debian is running out of the box, but we're just going to install Network Manager and use that. So sudo apt install Network Manager. Okay, must be called something else. Sudo apt install network. What can you find from network hyphen manager. So that's going to install firewall D. You know, I don't really like firewall D. I prefer to use UFW, the uncomplicated, UFW, the uncomplicated firewall. So I'm actually going to back this out and do a no install suggested packages. Okay, yep, I think that's better. All right, now what we need to do is, since Network Manager is technically a daemon, we need to enable that daemon. Okay. I had to try a few different naming conventions. Apparently the daemon itself is called Network Manager, capital N for network and capital M for manager, where the package name is lowercase n for network hyphen lowercase m for manager. That's kind of annoying. That's actually super annoying. Not sure why that is. Anyway, so that should be enabled. Now let's start it. Oops, and I spelled that wrong. And ager. Okay, and finally, to check and make sure that it's actually running, sudo system ttl status network manager. And you see there that it is running. There is actually a very easy way to enable it and start it at the same time. That would be a sudo systemctl enable --now, and then the name of the application, manager. So that is essentially doing the sudo systemctl enable network manager, and then the start network manager is just compressed into one call. Alright. Okay, and now that we have the network manager installed, I need to just open up my browser because the interfaces file is kind of specific with the things that it actually needs to have, so let's just Linux IP Debian. Okay, so here it is. To configure the interface manually, you just need to do a couple things. It's actually fairly simple. It's essentially 2 extra lines, and I believe that most of this should already be in the file, but let's check it out anyway. So sudo vim etc/network/interfaces. And you see at the top here, we are actually kind of sourcing all of the things from the interfaces.d directory. You generally want to put any additions there, which we will be doing. And since what we'll be doing is putting additions there, we kind of want to not have these overridden. So we're just going to comment both of those out, write and quit that file, and then create a new file inside of the interfaces.d directory. It doesn't matter what it's called. I would suggest just doing whatever the name of the network device is. In this case, oh, and I forgot it already. I don't know, ENPS10. I want to check that. I was close. ENP1S0. Now we want auto ENP1 S0 iFace ENP1 S0 iNet static address 192.0.2.7. Why am I just copying blindly from there? 192.168.42 for our subnet, and let's do 50. 50 sounds like a reasonable one. And then gateway 92.168.42.1. Generally, if you actually set up your separate subdomains through your router, most of the time the gateway will be 1, depending on the router. I think you can set it manually. In this case, .1 is always the gateway for whatever subdomain or for whatever subnet that I'm on. So write and save that, and then I think this should just auto-generate if we restart the network manager service. It did not. Okay. Let's try a simple reboot. See if that works. I just realized about 5 episodes in that we did this with a legacy style boot instead of EFI. I generally do EFI on all my virtual machines. I must have just forgotten. It isn't really a big deal. It doesn't do anything different. Let's see if our IP address has changed. Okay. You see here, we have the 192.168.42.50. So that is the one that we set, so it appears to be working correctly. Let's start up our X server. And actually, let's go back in and, oh, and up at the top here, it's correct as well. So we shouldn't have to do that next time. But what I want to do is now remove that file that we created in the interfaces.d and do this with Netplan. Show you my preferred way to do this. So sudo remove etc network interfaces.d, and then the only one in there is the one that we just created. Okay, now we need to install the Netplan application. And I know from experience on Debian specifically, this is called netplan.io. Depending on your distribution, it might be something completely different. It'll most likely just have Netplan in the name somewhere, but that'll be up to you to figure out. So sudo apt install netplan. Yep, that's fine. Okay. Now let's open up Netplan documentation page. And one of the big differences with Netplan is that it uses YAML configuration files instead of... Actually, I'm not sure what the configuration files that the interface is. It's not necessarily a bash file. I think it's just a plain text file. But with the YAML file, it will actually tell you if something is incorrect, which we'll likely figure out here for you. Also, if you're on Ubuntu, Netplan is probably already installed. I believe that's the default way to do things on Ubuntu, and I think that they got this right. Okay. And instead of in etc network, we're going to etc netplan. And there should be an example file here somewhere. Yes, okay. So we just need to create a file in this directory. The way that it likes to do this is to have an index in front, or just a set of numbers, 0, 1, all the way through 99, I believe. I'm not sure if you can go more than 2 digits. It basically applies the configuration files in order, starting at the top, which would be 001, and going all the way down to possibly 99. So let's create a file, sudo vim 01, and then it doesn't really matter what the name of it is as long as it ends in a .yaml file. So let's do sudo vim 01 youtube vid.yaml. And you'll see here the first thing we need to do is create a network tag. Network version 2 render. The options for this would be Network D, which would be the systemd application. There is also Network Manager, and Network Manager is what we're going to want to be using. I'm not sure if it works with other ones besides systemd, Network D, or Network Manager. It's possible it might. Setting up our Ethernet status, and it's ENP1S0. DHCP4? No, thank you. And there is a little more setup to this YAML file than with just the interfaces file. There are quite a few more required fields, but I kind of like configuring everything exactly how I want it. That's kind of how I like to do things when I'm developing code. I config the hell out of everything, so we're going to config the hell out of this. So we don't want DHCP, and addresses. That's a strange looking word. Alright, 192.168.42. And since it already is at 50, let's change it to 51. /24. What the /24 does is it essentially applies the netmask and the IP address in the same line. /24 is the same as 255.255.255.0. And our gateway address would be the same, 192.168.42.1. Now we gotta set up our name servers, which is our basically our DNS servers that we want to use. DNS is generally how your computer knows or figures out that google.com actually goes to 8.8.8.8. 8.8.8.8. That's their IP address. It essentially resolves common names into IP addresses that the internet's actually able to understand. The addresses that I like to use are 1.1.1.1 and 8.8.8.8. 8.8.8.8, like I just said, is the Google one. I'm actually not sure what 1.1.1.1 is. I've just been using it forever. Let's find out. Oh, it's the Cloudflare one. Go figure. Okay, yeah, it works great. I don't know. No issues with it. And actually, let's make a error here. Let's take out gateway and DHCP, and this should error out telling us exactly why. Another reason why I like this is that it running sudo netplan apply will immediately apply. It'll restart everything that needs to restart. Let's see what happened here. Invalid YAML. Mapping values are not allowed in this context. That's interesting. Oh. I am missing my colon after network. Alright, let's try that again. Sudo netplan apply. So look at this. Unknown renderer network manager. Okay. Maybe it is capital. Okay. It needed to be capital. So error in the network definition, unknown key DHCP. We took off the 4, expected an error. We got the error. See, this is why I like this. It tells you what is wrong with the file. Like if you were to make a mistake in the interfaces file, it just wouldn't work. Or it might work, and it might work in a completely wrong way. For the longest time, I had an incorrect bridge networking setup on my home machine because I didn't do the networking correctly in the interfaces file. I ran it through Netplan. Everything works amazing. So, love Netplan. I think it should be the default for the way that we set IP addresses, especially static IP addresses, the way we create bridges, the way that we do almost anything with that. I know it's not pure, but it's easy, it works. I would recommend it to anyone. Since we already know that we took off the 4 from the gateway, let's just add that back on so it actually works again. Sudo netplan apply. And you see up on the top here, we have 192.168.42.51 and a little confirmation. There we have it there as well. So as long as the YAML file is valid, as soon as you hit netplan apply, it applies everything. You don't have to restart everything. Everything is taken care of for you. That's why I love this utility. Okay, but I did actually want to keep it at 42.50. So let's go back and change that back to 42.50. And netplan apply again. And there we go, 42.50. Actually, now that I'm seeing this error that gateway 4 has been deprecated, let's just see what they actually want us to do. So they want us to use the default routes section of the documentation. So, okay, that's actually not too bad. So we want to get rid of this gateway 4. And in this case, just add a routes item. To default via 192.168.42.1. There we go. No more warning. And it's done. And when there's a future update that eventually breaks that gateway 4 item, it won't be broken. Alright, cool. Thank you all for watching so much. I'm Sky Knight, and this has been Bare Bones to Beautiful. See you.